Hey guys, Ron from FunctionBuilt-Aquatics. Nathan and I are glad to be back. Today we're starting a video with moving the wild Betta macrostoma. So I currently just moved my awesome pair of macrostoma to this new 29-gallon tank. I moved them to a new location also, and in doing so I wanted to try to maybe do something a little different with them. So basically we're going to talk about basic setup. Very clean and easy setup for macrostoma. So in this tank I'm using play box sand with some river gravel and some crushed up leaf pulp that I like to mix into the substrate. pH in this tank is around anywhere between 5.2 to about 5.9 is where it's been ranging. Temperatures between 72 degrees to about 74 degrees. In this tank I have my adult pair of Betta macrostoma, and I also keep about 6 to 7 coolie loaches as companions. The male was digging in the sand actually trying to get to some hidden particles of food, and got some sand stuck to his face, so that's nothing wrong with him. It's just some sand stuck to him. But for the most part, these guys are in a pretty easy basic setup. You do not need to go crazy and set up elaborate tanks for these type of fish. They like shade, they like cover. They like the pH to be pretty stable and low. They like their temperatures not to be too warm. And sometimes when you change the environment on these fish, you get pretty good spawns out of them, of which we'll talk a little bit later in this video of exactly what happened between this pair, not only 2 days after being moved. The male and female in this tank are about a year old, about a year and a half old, and seem to be doing rather well. So stay tuned. We'll talk more about what happened after we moved these guys. Thank you guys. FunctionBuilt-Aquatics, Nathan and Ron, back on the scene. Okay guys, as I mentioned in the video prior, sometimes when you move wild Betta fish, at least a lot of times for me, you can actually spurt spawning activity in some either pretty easy to breed fish or some fish that are giving you some difficulty. Either a large water change, change in the lighting frequency, maybe turning the lights off and on a little sooner. But for example, in this particular setup, these guys moved from a 40-gallon breeder to a 29-gallon tank. And what I did was I used half of the water from the 40 breeder and another half of a water change. I used all their sand from their original setup, which is about a year and a half old, and their driftwood. In setting that tank up, I was able to spurt these guys into spawning again. Right now, they're doing what I consider to be teaser wraps, which are a little too high in the water column for them to actually produce any real good wrap. If she were to drop the eggs right now, they're going to scatter amongst the plants and basically not be able to get picked up by the male. But as they move down to the bottom of the substrate, these guys actually spawn, which I did not get on video, but I do have a video showing the male holding. But these guys spawn within 2 days of moving them. They had been in my collection for over a year and a half, and they're very good breeders. So here's a decent wrap right there. But these guys actually got it done on their own later on. So sometimes you need to change the environment, do a big water change the lighting on the fish, maybe cut down the photo period, and that usually will get these fish to spawn if they're hard to spawn. Bang, our male mac is holding. Now he's going to rotate those eggs inside his mouth for the next 20 plus days. He's going to allow fresh water to flow over them so they don't become fungused. By about 18th day, I will take him out of this main setup, put him in a 10-gallon tank so he can release the fry. This way I can give him a chance to recoup so he doesn't spawn right away with the female, and also allow the fry to eat and do well on their own.